Quick like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. You know what's worse than finding out your wife is cheating? Finding out she's been telling everyone you were dying. Not just casually lying, creating an elaborate medical crisis that never happened. Telling her coworkers you were in the hospital. Accepting sympathy for your recovery. Getting time off work to care for you during a health emergency that was completely fictional. My wife's coworker stopped me at a grocery store last Wednesday and asked how my recovery was going. Said she'd been praying for me. Said the whole office had been so worried during my surgery. The problem? I've never had surgery. I've never been hospitalized. I've been perfectly healthy for our entire 8-year marriage. My wife had invented a serious medical crisis, my medical crisis, and told everyone in her office about it. Used it to explain her emotional state, her distracted behavior, her need for flexible hours. But she wasn't stressed about my health. She was stressed about hiding an affair. And she'd used my fictional illness as the perfect cover story. My name is Mitchell. I'm 38 years old, and I work as a senior software engineer for a tech company in Denver, Colorado. I spend my days debugging code, identifying logical errors, and recognizing when systems aren't functioning as they should. I understand cause and effect, inputs and outputs, and when something doesn't make sense. A coworker asking about my recovery from surgery I never had. That didn't make sense. I met Rachel 10 years ago at a friend's birthday party in downtown Denver. She was working as a marketing manager for a financial services company, professional and ambitious in ways that impressed me. I was the tech guy, logical and detail-oriented. We balanced each other's strengths and weaknesses. We got married 8 years ago, bought a townhouse in the Capitol Hill neighborhood, a modern space with mountain views and an open floor plan. Rachel continued advancing in marketing, eventually becoming senior director. I moved up to senior engineer. Combined income around $215,000. We were successful, stable, living the Colorado lifestyle. For 7 years, everything was predictable in the best way. Rachel worked regular hours, usually home by 6:30 p.m. We had dinner together most nights, spent weekends hiking or exploring breweries, maintained a solid social circle. Normal, healthy married life. Then about 5 months ago, things started shifting. Rachel's work schedule became more erratic. She'd come home at 8 or 9 p.m. several nights a week, claiming big projects and tight deadlines. New campaign launch, she'd explain. The team is stretched thin. I need to put in extra hours. Her emotional state changed too. She seemed stressed, distracted, sometimes tearful. I'd find her staring into space, looking troubled. Everything okay? I'd ask. Just wear pressure. I'm handling it. Her phone behavior had become more protective. Always face down, always password protected, always within reach. The physical intimacy between us had decreased significantly. We'd gone from regular connection to rare. I'm just exhausted, she'd say. Work is draining me. I supported her through what seemed like a difficult work period. Took on more household responsibilities. Gave her space to deal with her stress. Tried to be understanding. But looking back now, all those signs pointed to something I completely missed. Last Wednesday, I stopped at the King Soopers near our townhouse after work. Just a quick trip for groceries. I was in the produce section when I heard someone call my name. Mitchell. Hi. I turned to see a woman approaching with a shopping cart. She looked vaguely familiar, but I couldn't place her. I'm sorry, do I know you? Oh, I'm Jennifer. I work with Rachel. We've met a few times at company events. Right, of course. How are you? I'm good. But more importantly, how are you? How's the recovery going? I stared at her, confused. Recovery? From your surgery? Rachel said you had the procedure 3 weeks ago. She's been so worried about you. My brain tried to process what she was saying. Surgery? 3 weeks ago. Rachel worried about me. None of that had happened. I think there might be some confusion, I said slowly. I haven't had any surgery. Jennifer's smile faltered. Oh, I thought. Rachel told us you had to have an emergency procedure. She took time off to be with you at the hospital and help with your recovery at home. When did she say this happened? About 3 weeks ago. She was really upset about it. Left work early that day, saying you were going into surgery. Then she was out for 4 days to take care of you afterward. 3 weeks ago. I mentally scrolled back. 3 weeks ago, Rachel had told me she was going to a marketing conference in Austin. Thursday through Sunday. For days. She'd show me the conference agenda, told me about the sessions she wanted to attend, texted me updates from the conference, throughout the weekend. She hadn't been at a conference. According to Jennifer, she told her coworker she was taking time off to care for me after surgery. But I've been home, alone, perfectly healthy, thinking my wife was in Austin. Jennifer, I need to be very clear. I haven't been sick. I haven't had surgery. I was home alone 3 weeks ago, while Rachel was supposedly at a conference in Austin. Jennifer's face went white. But she said, she was so upset. The whole office has been asking about you. We took up a collection to send you a get-well basket. Rachel said you were recovering well, but it had been really scary. What kind of surgery did she say I had? She didn't give details. Just said it was serious and unexpected. That you'd be okay, but needed time to recover. I pulled out my phone. Jennifer, can I ask you something? Did Rachel seem genuinely upset about this? Or did it seem performative? She seemed really upset. She cried at her desk the day she said you were going into surgery. Several of us hugged her and told her everything would be okay. And she took 4 days off after that. Yes. Thursday through Sunday. She said she needed to be home with you. Did she mention any follow-up appointments or ongoing treatment? She said you need a few more weeks of rest, but should be fully recovered. We've all been checking in with her about how you're doing. I felt like the ground was shifting under me. How long has she been talking about my health issues? The emergency was 3 weeks ago, but she'd been mentioning for a while before that you've been having some health concerns, that you might need a procedure eventually. So when she said you had to have emergency surgery, it made sense based on what she'd been telling us. How long is a while? Maybe 2 or 3 months. She'd mention occasionally that you weren't feeling well, that you were seeing doctors, that she was worried. 2 or 3 months. For 2 or 3 months, Rachel had been building a narrative at work that I was having health problems. Then she'd escalated to emergency surgery 3 weeks ago and used it as a reason to take 4 days off. For days when she told me she was at a conference in Austin. For days when she'd actually been. Where? Jennifer, I need to ask you a favor. Can you not mention this conversation to Rachel? At least not yet. Jennifer looked uncomfortable. Is everything okay? I'm not sure, but I need to figure some things out before she knows I know about this. Okay, I won't say anything. But Mitchell, I hope everything's all right. Me too. I finished my grocery shopping on autopilot, my mind racing through the implications. Rachel had invented a medical crisis. My medical crisis. Told her entire office I was having health problems, then escalated to emergency surgery. Used it as a reason to take time off work. But she told me she was at a conference. Why would she need 2 different stories? Why tell me Austin and tell her coworker's hospital? Because she was actually doing something else entirely. Something that required 4 days away from both work and home. Something she needed separate cover stories to hide. When I got home, Rachel's car was already in the garage. She was in the kitchen making dinner. Hey, how was your day? She asked, looking cheerful. Interesting. I ran into someone at King Soopers. Yeah? Who? Jennifer from your office. I watched her face carefully. Saw a flicker of something. Concern? Fear? Before she smiled. Oh, nice. How's she doing? She's good. She asked me how my recovery was going. Rachel froze. Just for a second, but I saw it. Your recovery? Yeah. From my surgery. The emergency surgery I had 3 weeks ago. The one you took 4 days off to care for me through. She set down a knife she'd been using to chop vegetables. Mitchell. Except I didn't have surgery. I've never had surgery. 3 weeks ago, you told me you were at a marketing conference in Austin. But you told Jennifer and your whole office that I was in the hospital having an emergency procedure. I can explain. Please do. Because Jennifer also mentioned you've been telling people for 2 or 3 months that I've been having health problems. Problems I didn't know I had. Rachel's face crumpled. She started crying. Why did you invent a medical crisis about me? Why did you tell your entire office I was sick? I needed a reason. A reason for what? For why I was so distracted. For why I needed flexible time. For why I was upset. Why were you upset, Rachel? She didn't answer. And 3 weeks ago, you told me you were in Austin. You told your office you were home with me. Where were you actually? She looked at the floor. With someone else. The kitchen felt suddenly too small. Too quiet. Someone else who? His name is Daniel. He's a consultant who works with our company. And you spent 4 days with him while telling me you were at a conference and telling your office you were caring for your sick husband. Yes. Why the elaborate lie? Why not just say you were at a conference to both of us? Because I needed more than 4 days. I needed flexibility for months. If I told work I was at conferences all the time, they'd question it. But if I told them you were sick, they'd understand when I was distracted, when I needed to leave early, when I seemed emotional. So you invented my illness as a cover story for your affair. I didn't mean for it to go so far. How far did it go? Jennifer said the office took up a collection for a get-well basket. People have been praying for me. Your coworkers have been checking in on my recovery for 3 weeks. You told them I had emergency surgery. I know. Do you realize how insane that is? You created a completely fictional medical crisis about your husband and told your entire professional circle about it. Used their sympathy and support as cover for cheating on me. I was in too deep. Once I started telling them you were having health issues, I couldn't back out. And I needed a reason for the 4 days with Daniel. The emergency surgery made sense. Made sense? Rachel, you told people I was in surgery. You cried at your desk. You let them hug you and comfort you about something that never happened. You used my fake illness to manipulate your coworkers' emotions. I'm sorry. How long has the affair been going on? For months. And how long have you been telling people I'm sick? About 3 months. So you started the affair, realized you needed a cover story for your changed behavior, and decided to make me terminally ill. I never said terminal. What exactly did you tell them? She wiped her eyes. I said you've been having some health issues, that you were seeing specialists, that they were running tests. Then 3 weeks ago, I said you had to have emergency surgery, but you'd be okay. Did you specify what kind of surgery? No, I kept it vague. Just said it was serious, but you'd recover. And everyone believed you, because why would someone lie about their husband being sick? She nodded miserably. I pulled out my phone. I'm going to call your office. What? No. I'm going to call and ask to speak to your HR department. I'm going to tell them that you've been using a fictional medical crisis about me as a reason for workplace flexibility while you were actually conducting an affair. You can't do that. Watch me. You involve your entire office in this lie. They took up money from me. They've been worried about me. They deserve to know the truth. I'll lose my job. You should have thought about that before you told everyone your husband was dying. I called the main number for Rachel's company. Asked to speak to HR. Got transferred to a woman named Patricia. Hi, Patricia. My name is Mitchell Harris. I'm calling about my wife, Rachel Harris, who works in your marketing department. Yes. How can I help you? I need to report that Rachel has been fabricating a personal emergency. She's told her coworkers that I've been seriously ill and recently had emergency surgery. None of that is true. I've never been sick. I'm calling because your employees have been expressing sympathy and even taking up collections for a medical situation that doesn't exist. There was silence on the line. I'm sorry. I'm not sure I understand. Are you saying? I'm saying my wife invented a medical crisis about me as a cover story for personal reasons that have nothing to do with my health. Your staff has been deceived. People have been worried about me, and I've never been sick a day in my life. This is very serious. Do you have proof you're Rachel's husband? I can provide our marriage certificate, my driver's license, whatever you need. You can also ask Rachel directly. She'll confirm it because she's standing right here. I put the phone on speaker. Rachel, say hi to Patricia from HR. Rachel was crying hard now. Hi, Patricia. Rachel, is what your husband is saying true? Rachel nodded, then realized Patricia couldn't see her. Yes. You've been telling your coworkers your husband was seriously ill when he wasn't. Yes. Why would you do that? Rachel couldn't answer. I took the phone off speaker. Patricia, I'll let you handle this with Rachel directly. I just wanted to make sure you were aware of what's been happening. Your employees' kindness and sympathy has been manipulated. Thank you for calling, Mr. Harris. We'll address this immediately. I hung up. Rachel was staring at me in horror. You just got me fired. You got yourself fired. You lied to your employer about a personal emergency to cover an affair. That's workplace misconduct. Where am I supposed to go? I don't care. Go to Daniel. You spent 4 days with him 3 weeks ago. I'm sure he'll take you in. You're kicking me out. You told your entire office I was dying. You cried about my fake surgery. You took time off to care for me while you were actually with your boyfriend. Yes, I'm kicking you out. I grabbed my laptop and opened our shared calendar. Pulled up the past 4 months. Show me every time you've been with Daniel. What? Because I want to know the full extent of the lies. Show me, or I'll call Daniel directly. She pulled out her phone, went through her calendar with me. Thursday evenings, told me she was working late, actually meeting Daniel. The Austin conference, 4 days with Daniel. A supposed word dinner in Boulder. Date with Daniel. A team offsite in Colorado Springs. Weekend with Daniel. For 4 months, Rachel had been conducting an affair while telling me work stories and telling her coworkers health stories. Neither was true. Get out, I said. Pack a bag. Leave tonight. Where am I supposed to go? Call Daniel. Call a friend. Get a hotel. I don't care. But you're not staying in this house. She packed while crying. Left around 9 p.m. I sat in our living room, processing everything. For 4 months, Rachel had been lying to everyone. To me about work commitments. To her co-workers about my health. All to cover an affair. She'd made me fictionally sick. Made people worry about me. Accepted their sympathy and support. Used my invented illness to manipulate her workplace into giving her flexibility. And I'd only found out because Jennifer asked about my recovery at the grocery store. The next day, I called a divorce attorney. Her name was Lisa Morgan. My wife has been having an affair for 4 months. She told her entire office I was seriously ill and had emergency surgery to cover for time she was spending with her boyfriend. I found out when a coworker asked about my recovery from surgery I never had. Lisa was quiet for a moment. That's unusual. She fabricated a medical crisis. Told people for months I was having health problems. Then claimed I had emergency surgery. Took 4 days off work to care for me, while actually spending time with her affair partner. That could constitute fraud in the workplace. Did she receive any benefits or accommodations based on the false emergency? She got flexible hours, emotional support from coworkers, and 4 days off that she charged as personal emergency leave. Her office even took up a collection to send me a get-well basket. That's workplace fraud. She obtained benefits under false pretenses. You have grounds for a very strong divorce case. Rachel was fired from her job 3 days later. Patricia from HR called to inform me that they'd investigated and found Rachel had been claiming personal emergency leave for a medical situation that didn't exist. She'd violated company policy. They'd terminated her employment immediately. Rachel tried to blame me. Said I'd ruined her career by calling HR. But I'd simply told them the truth. She'd ruined her own career by lying. The divorce moved quickly. Rachel had no leverage. She'd committed workplace fraud, had a documented 4-month affair, and had created elaborate lies that I could prove were false. We settled after 5 weeks. I kept the townhouse. I'd paid the entire down payment from premarital savings. Rachel got 25% of joint accounts. No spousal support. 8 years of marriage ended because someone asked about my recovery from surgery I never had. I heard Rachel and Daniel try to continue their relationship. It lasted 6 weeks. Turns out Daniel had enjoyed the affair, but didn't want the complications of Rachel being unemployed, divorced, and needing support. About a year later, I met someone at a tech meetup. Her name was Sarah. Software architect. Direct. Honest. On our 3rd date, she asked about my divorce. My ex-wife told her entire office I was seriously ill. Said I had emergency surgery. Her coworkers took up a collection for me. I found out when someone asked about my recovery from surgery I never had. Sarah's eyes widened. She invented a medical crisis about you. For 4 months. Used it to cover an affair. Told people I was sick to explain why she was distracted and needed flexible time. Then escalated to emergency surgery to cover a 4-day trip with her boyfriend. That's elaborate. That's calculated. She manipulated dozens of people's emotions. Let them worry about me. Accepted their sympathy. All while using their kindness as cover for cheating. We've been together 10 months. Sarah has never invented a medical emergency. Just tells the truth. My wife's coworker asked how my recovery was going. I was never sick. Never had surgery. Never spent 4 days recovering at home. I was healthy the whole time. But my wife needed people to believe I wasn't. Because sick husbands make excellent cover stories for affairs.